Really happy to be here. I love it on campus. And as I was thinking about what I might be able to say to you, I reflected back a little bit on when I was in your seat almost 20 years ago, which probably seems like an eternity to you looking forward. I'm a has-been. There's a generation gap between me and you and all that good stuff. My oldest child is 17 years old. And so it's been a long time. And I remember sitting in your seat at BYU, and I really had no idea what I was going to do. I just, you know, my life was kind of, I'm not one of the people that plans his life out and then goes and marches toward that. There were a lot of things that I liked when I was at BYU. I liked technology, I liked religion, I liked history, and I did a lot of different things. And so you might be thinking about, well, I'm going to finish my education while I'm at BYU, and then I'll go out into the great world and find what I'm going to do. I would suggest that when you graduate, you're not finishing your education, you're starting your education. And my last 20 years has been a huge education for me. And I want to talk about some of those things. So when I was sitting where you were, this was my roadmap. This was my 1994 roadmap. Seriously, I had no idea. I was the Apple student representative at BYU for my job. Basically, my job was to go around and talk to department heads that all thought the Mac was a loser operating system and convince them that it was cool and try and get adoption of the Macintosh on campus. And so that's what I did. My wife worked at the Student Computing Support Center, so that's where I met my wife because I talked to her boss quite a bit and didn't really know what I was going to do. I graduated with over 200 credits at BYU in all different things. I was doing a degree in Near Eastern Studies. So when I was taking my senior finals, one of my finals was to translate a chapter of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, what door is that supposed to open in life? You know, it's like, how do you take that and leverage it into a job? But I liked it, and so that's why I did it. And beyond that, I really had no idea. So I guess maybe my roadmap could have looked like this. You know, I loved technology. I loved computers. But I didn't take one single computer science course while I was here. Who does that? Somebody who really just doesn't plan very well and just sort of, you know, tries to take life one day at a time, I guess. Anyway, so I studied in Israel for 6 months. I did all these things, and when I graduated, I just really had no idea, but I was interested in video production, digital video production. Back then, everybody did their video editing with tapes, and so it was this linear process, and you would edit by copying over to tapes, and it took a long time. And I was really interested in taking that and making it digital so that you could do edits the way that we can all now do even on our iPhones. But back then, I spent a lot of money to get some equipment to do this. I spent $4,000 on 64 megabytes of RAM. You can get, I mean, that's probably like 10 cents worth of RAM now. I created this RAID array that could capture video, and back then the hard drives weren't fast enough, so I had to reprogram the hard drives that I bought, and my 2 gigabyte RAID array cost me almost $5,000, and it would hold 20 minutes of video. And, you know, I bought all this equipment, bought a nice camera. I actually set up an office in Park City, and I was all set to do video production. You know, some of my other jobs as a college, I worked as a graphic designer. I worked in a service bureau. I had a little bit of a creative side at one point. My kids have since killed that. But in any case, I was ready to go into business in video production. And then I chickened out. I sold all my stuff to a software company that did computer-based training software, and they wanted me to come and set up their studio. So I sold them all my equipment, and I'm thankful for that because I think my partner in Park City is probably making wedding videos right now. I'm not sure. But I went to this software company. We did computer-based training software, and it was a learning experience for me. I got to learn a little bit about company dynamics. There were about 50 employees there. I ended up becoming their VP of marketing, and this was in about 1996. So the internet was brand new back then, and me as the marketing guy was thinking, hey, this internet thing, I should probably know a little bit about it, and our company should have a website. But nobody in the company knew anything about the web. So I actually learned how to program. I learned HTML, I learned JavaScript, I learned Perl, I set up the company website, I taught myself how to program, and I actually created a shopping cart software for this computer-based training company. And did all these great technology things. I brought in one of the very first data T1s into Orem and set up an ISP so that all of our employees could have free internet. And I really loved the internet. I thought it was great. And about that time, my wife and I had our first child, and I thought, hey, I'm going to make a website. It was called babylink.com. It was like Etsy for babies. It was all these handmade crafts for babies from all over the United States. We had like 3,000 products on it. For me, it was my hobby. And I just kind of wrote the website and did this stuff on it and ended up selling that for, at the time, what I thought was awesome, because this was just my hobby, right? I wasn't a businessman. I wasn't even thinking about it like a business. If I had been in your shoes and had taken some of these great entrepreneurship classes, I probably wouldn't have been so slow. But in any case, I sold it for what I thought was great. In retrospect, it was really just kind of pennies. And kind of got my first taste of maybe what I could do. And I started to think, you know, why am I killing myself at work trying to make some other guy rich that I don't even like, instead of working for myself? And it really started to dawn on me that I probably should be using my skills and talents to benefit myself. So I left that company and started a company called collegedays.com. It was like daily deals and social services for college students. It was a total failure. But this was 1997, 96, 97. And nobody really got the internet. And so all these businesses that we were trying to get them to do daily deals, they're like, what's the internet? This is going to change my life, right? And it didn't change their life, and we didn't have any money. And it was really kind of, we just had some scale problems, and it wasn't exactly, we just didn't have the runway. And so we ended up learning that it took the same amount of effort to sell a $20 coupon to a business as it took to sell a $20,000 website to a business. And so we pivoted and created a company called Gravity Media Group. And Gravity Media was a website design. We built it as an interactive agency. We did a lot of design and a lot of application development, especially for marketing organizations, to help them have a better presence on the internet. And that company was a lot of fun. We got some of the best talent in Utah. We had great designers. We had some good technologists. Sorry, I was hoping I'd be able to talk without my mouth getting dry. We had these technologists, and we were growing. So we got to the point that we had about 20 or 25 employees at this company, and I really had some questions about the business. I wanted to know, well, who exactly is doing what, and how much does it cost us as a business to do certain kinds of projects? I wanted to know, when someone called and said, we have this emergency, you guys have to do it, can we really do it? Like, do we have enough bandwidth, or what's it going to do to other things that we're working on? And are we bidding on jobs correctly, or are there jobs that we always lose money on that we maybe shouldn't even do or change our approach to? Are there jobs that we make a lot of money on? And we should do more of those kind of jobs. And I just didn't have the answers, and I wanted to be able to answer those. I wanted to be able to pick up the phone when a client called and say, yeah, I know exactly where we are. In fact, you should log in and look at it yourself. You can see exactly where we are for your project. In fact, we need your approval on a couple of things here, and we'd really like to capture that permanently so that we're all on the same page here. And so I started writing some software to answer those questions. And for me, this was the go home at night, so finish my day job, get home by about 6, play with the kids for a while, read to them, put them to bed, and then around about 9 o'clock, go back to work for 6 more hours. And I did that for about a year and a half, and then Saturdays too. And I was working on this software that I thought, hey, this is really going to help I was thinking of it just, this is going to help our business. And it was my first Java application, so I was teaching myself Java while I was doing this as well. And got it done, rolled it out, and customers started asking, hey, where can I buy this software? This is kind of cool. We really like this. And to me, looked like the future. Hey, I could bill for hours on the agency forever, or I could make a product and really sell it over and over and over again. That seems like the best idea. So I actually split from the agency and traded out and got AtTask started. So that was in 2001. And AtTask was just such a great education. It still is, actually. But AtTask was a bootstrap startup, and I didn't have any money at the time. In fact, looking back, the 2 years I spent at college days, I got $25,000 a year for each of those 2 years. Before that, I didn't really make any money. Was making a little bit of money at the agency. So that was my comfortable, awesome job I created for myself, and I left it. I didn't get a paycheck again for another year. It was over a year with AtTask. And so I had my little kids at home. I had a mortgage. I'd fortunately paid a lot of extra, so I had some equity. So I took out a second mortgage, and I was able to use that second mortgage to pay for some employees and also use some credit cards to pay for business expense. It was ugly. It really was. It was tough. And it took about 2.5 years to get to the point that we really felt like we had a business. And there were some things, it was just, while it could be discouraging and difficult, and oftentimes I wondered, how are we going to succeed? I would discover that, I remember once I discovered that we had a competitor that had raised $20 million and had 100 employees. I had 3 employees. It's like, man, that stinks. How are we going to win? Microsoft was a competitor. Computer Associates was a competitor. HP was a competitor. We had like hundreds of other smaller competitors. I swear every other week we would read about another competitor that wanted to solve the issue of project management or managing work. And with limited resources, it just could get so discouraging. But yet we felt like, hey, this is something that's going to work. And there were times that we just had miraculous success. I remember once early on, we're just about right to the end of our rope, and a company back east called. They're kind of a large company, and they'd said that Microsoft had been out there for a week, and that IBM had been out there for a week, and they'd shown their stuff. They weren't really sure. They weren't really happy with what they'd seen. They wanted to know if we did X, Y, and Z. And I said, of course we do X, Y, and Z. Absolutely, we do that. In fact, when can we come show you? Hung up the phone, immediately started working on X, Y, and Z. Wrote software on the airplane, wrote software all night at the hotel, went to this company, showed it to them. No lie, I left in 30 minutes with a contract for $60,000. And that hasn't happened since. I mean, you just don't make sales that fast. But we did. We had experiences like that where we just had opportunities to plug along and make our way. And so AtTask has continued to grow over the years. We've got about 1,600 customers. We've got offices in 5 countries. We've got the product is available in 12 languages. It's being used in 80 different countries. And it really is making a big difference in the workforce. So at the end of 2011, I hired a CEO and made myself completely obsolete in my company that I founded. And yes, that was difficult. I could probably do a whole lecture on the whys that was difficult, but I didn't realize how emotionally attached I was to that company. And you know, if you're an entrepreneur, you'll understand it. It's just being in the mix and in the thick of things is a lot of fun. But I remember that I have my most important company that I'm the CEO of, which is my family. And it's interesting in life, you know, it's easy to get distracted, and it's easy to forget why you're really working. And this is why I'm working here. And the rest of it really doesn't matter that much. It's not about success or accomplishment other than what you accomplish that has long-lasting value, which to me, what I do with this little company will have value and will have impact in the world long time after AtTask does, for sure. And so made myself obsolete, stepped out of the CEO role. My interaction with the company now is about 2 days a quarter, and I've had the last year to really do some things that I would have never done. I've been able to come and teach a class here at BYU. I've been able to do a little bit of investing with some smaller companies, a little bit of mentoring with some of you guys as BYU students and other entrepreneurs in the Valley. And I've really met a lot of just amazing people over the last year that I would have never met had I still been heads down in my own little world, in my own little company. So, you know, nothing's changed though. My roadmap still kind of looks the same as it did in 1994. I have no idea what I'm going to be when I grow up. I have no idea exactly what direction I'm going. I'll tell you this though, I am going to start another company, and I'm working on a really great idea right now. So if you have any, if you have technical or creative talent, I want to talk to you, especially if you're awesome. Okay. So anyway, I see this as an education. Really, this is my education over the last few years, and my education started at BYU. It didn't start when I left. I actually learned something here at BYU, but I have learned so much over the last several years. And I think that there's a link between entrepreneurism and education, because to educate is to lead forth, you know, to go out and to be an entrepreneur is to do the same thing, just in a little more tangible way. And so as entrepreneurs, we're eager to learn. Half of our effort is about learning, and that's what makes us entrepreneurs, is because we're able to see the world a little differently than other people, and what causes that is what we learn about the world around us. So speaking of being eager to learn, my advice, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, get a mentor, okay? It is so easy to shoot yourself in the foot as you start a business. Literally from day one, you can shoot yourself in the foot with the promises you make about equity and the arrangements you make with your partners and the protections that you put in place. There's a business nugget to business and being an entrepreneur. And it's not just about being creative and having a good idea. It's being able to execute on that. So I would suggest get a mentor and don't ever shoot yourself in the foot as a result. So speaking of entrepreneurs, who in here is an aspiring entrepreneur? Good. I love it, by the way. I just love the challenge of business. I love the fact that we can all compete, that you can pick a problem and that you can solve it in a way that nobody else can and go out and make your way in the world. So here's some signs you might be an entrepreneur. One is you look at everything not for how it is, but for how it should be. And then you drive everyone around you with your ideas about how everything should be. You don't have security or predictability on your bucket list. And I can tell you that's really true. You know, you start a business, you put your heart and soul into it, and you just don't know. Any day could be the day that you read a press release from Microsoft announcing a product that makes you obsolete. Any day. You know, any day you can get a letter in the mail from some attorney you don't know telling you you're violating a patent you've never heard of. Literally any day. And so, yeah, security, predictability, definitely not on the bucket list. You see failure as an education. Someone needs to change the world. You think, why not me? And of course, you like making money. So yeah, a lot of signs you might be an entrepreneur. This one makes me laugh. You know, things like you cut your own hair, you're the lowest paid employee in your own company. You just realize you have no idea what day or time it is. All good stuff. So I wondered what I might be able to tell you. It's just a few words of advice here. The first one is have vision about what you're doing, okay? Vision drives entrepreneurs. And I didn't pick up on this for a while. And looking back, you know, there are a lot of things, I think, in my past that could have worked out. So, for example, the software I wrote while I was at the computer-based training company. There's a big difference between me, who wrote shopping cart software that took credit cards over the internet in 1996, and a local company called iMall, who wrote credit card processing software that was internet-based in 1996. 2 years later, they sold their company for $425 million. I was just like a super motivated service guy for my little software company. That's all I got out of it. So vision, you know, vision drives where you're going to be. I want you to watch this guy, this really weird guy here. There's music in the background. I didn't want to talk over him, so you're not going to hear the music. So entrepreneurs go against the social norm. They are weird, right? They stick their neck out, and they behave in ways that most people don't behave. But what they do is they get other people to join them. Other people see the vision. There's a number 2 guy and a number 3 guy. They aren't quite willing to be as crazy as the number 1 guy who takes all the risk, but they're there. And they come because, hey, if someone can have fun doing it, so can they. And you watch these guys long enough. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty weird, right? But watch for just a second here. So here's the deal with entrepreneurs. After it gets embarrassingly awkward, but you've stuck with it, pretty soon other people realize there's a brave new world too. And pretty soon they can't wait to join the party. And then pretty soon you hit a critical mass, and all of a sudden it's a real legit party. And then pretty soon, if you're not at the party, you're not cool. And people jump up and they run to come join the party before it's over. Okay, this is entrepreneurism in action right here. So if you have vision for what you want to be, share that vision, have the vision, share it, and have the guts to stick with it. And it could just be your next party. Okay. There's a mural in the Wilkes Center called The Vision of Alfred Kelly. Did you know that BYU is here because of a vision? It is. The entire campus was going to be sold to pay for the Mazer building because the Mazer building was 3 times larger than the current student body. It was plenty big, but they needed to pay for it. They had no money, and they had all this land. So at graduation, Alfred Kelly was supposed to get up and sell this campus. He was supposed to get up and make the pitch and start the sales process for the land. Well, he gets up at the commencement speech, or the graduation speech, and he shares an experience that he had where he was walking up here wondering what he was going to say, and he literally had a vision of thousands upon thousands of young people going in and out of temples of learning, carrying books, and their faces were full of hope and faith. And he shared that vision, and when he was done, Jesse Knight jumped up and pledged several $1,000s, and he was soon followed by others. And that vision made a difference. It made possible what BYU is today. So the next is to be fearless. Really, starting a business can be pretty scary for any number of reasons. You're not guaranteed anything. You put it all out on the line, and like I said, you can discover any day that things can go drastically wrong. So I like this little video. Let me get the audio going here.
Lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed.
Take Michael Jordan. He's failed more than anybody. That's why he succeeds. Christopher Columbus was on this great new adventure looking for the brave new world, and literally 2 days before they sighted land, his crew was contemplating throwing him off the boat. I can relate to that, by the way. Anyway, he cheered him on as best he could, and he said, I told them of all the honors and rewards they were about to receive. I told the men also it was useless to complain, for I had started out to find the Indies, and would continue until I had accomplished that mission with the help of our Lord. And in business, like I said, anything can happen. You can read that nasty press release. You know, you can get up and find out your nearest competitor has just been acquired by a huge player, and now has all the press and momentum. You can just any number of problems can happen. I remember at AtTask early on, the software wasn't working very well. Our first customers weren't very happy. My 3 employees came to me one day and said they were quitting, and I owed a lot of money. Like, there's no way I would have been able to figure that one out. And at times, especially when I was in a hotel by myself somewhere, I wondered, what in the heck am I doing? And I want to share with you, there's one thing I've found that works better than anything else to cast fear aside, and that's prayer. Now, I can talk about that here at BYU, and it's part of why I love BYU is because we recognize that there's more to life than just our learning and our science, and that we look through things with an eye of faith. And there's a responsibility that goes with that too, and that is you can't be two separate. You can't be a different business person than you are on Sunday. You have to be the whole package here. You have to go from BYU and represent and live up to your values. And there's no dollar worth earning that causes you to chip away at your character, your values, your honesty, your commitment to upholding what's right and good. And that is, for BYU entrepreneurs, really for everybody, it should be true. For us, it's important that we recognize that. There is something that trumps the dollar. There's something that trumps business success. And if we have to go down in flames because we were honest, so be it. But I've found that when I'm in order and when I'm doing the things that I need to be doing, prayer just melts away any fear, any doubt, any dispersions that I might have of my own self or what I'm doing. And that has helped me get through a lot of things because it doesn't matter where you are, anytime you're doing something new, it comes with a whole bundle of fear. Okay. Be cheap. You girls are going to like this. If you're dating an entrepreneur, you guys, you're going to like this. Be cheap. No, I'm cheap by nature, but what do I mean by be cheap? Okay? This could be your next job. Yeah, exactly. Why is that? Because you get your job and you start earning a little bit of money, and you're like so thrilled that you finally have some money and some stability that you go out and you do what with that money? Huh? Yeah. You get some money, you get a credit card, and now that you've got a steady income, you can make just your bare minimum payments because you want to buy a TV and you want to get that car, exactly, and that house. And as you get more and more, you leverage yourself more and more. And what happens is you're not improving your quality of life, you're actually stealing your future opportunities by doing that. There's no way I could have gone for 14 months with no paycheck, 3 little kids, and a mortgage if I had spent the money that I had earned on stupid stuff. Okay? The difference between you being cheap and not being cheap is probably the difference between you owning 50% or 5% of your next company. Really, it's that significant. And so it's important for you to just live within your means. Don't get hung up on looking like you need to be successful. You know, this was my car that I drove for 10 years after we got married. This is like the very car. And I absolutely hated that car the day I bought it, and I hated it every day I drove it. I paid cash for it, and that was the only good thing about this car. Seriously, it's not cool. It doesn't look nice. It's not fun to drive. It didn't have a good stereo. There was nothing good about this car. But I drove it until it went into the ground. And just stuff like that enabled me to have the freedom to ditch my comfortable job and to do something unknown and very scary. So simplicity is freedom. Another thing is work harder, okay? You're saying, what? I already work hard. I'm not talking about more hours. I'm not talking about just spending time. Time is your most precious commodity. Like, it's the one thing in your life that you can never replace. You can lose your money, you can replace it. You can everything almost you can replace. Time you can't replace. Once you've wasted it, it's wasted. It's gone. And I like to look at my time as an investment in my own future. So back to the CBT company, computer-based software. It actually was tanking. It was a terrible company. It was, we don't have time to go into it. It was the craziest work environment ever. But when people were playing network games at work, I was teaching myself how to do JavaScript and Perl and HTML. And that effort on my part, using my time the best I could, opened up doors that opened up other doors that opened up other doors and put me where I am today. And so same thing for you. You can be entrepreneurs in your companies. You can be entrepreneurs on your own. You can make a difference wherever you are. And part of it is use your time wisely, because right now things are kind of uncertain. It was a big topic in the presidential debates. Not enough jobs. You're probably not surprised by that. It's just difficult out there right now. And you've all heard the story about the 2 hikers that go out in the woods, and they're a little bit worried about bears, and one of them doesn't act worried at all, and the other one's wondering, well, why are you not worried? Because there are bears everywhere here, and we might get eaten. And the one hiker says, no, the reason I'm not worried is because all I have to do is outrun you. And that's kind of the workforce today. All you have to do is outrun people around you to open up opportunities for yourself. And we're kind of growing up in this whole participation age. You get a participation badge, it's all good, and we're all winners. And there are people out there that really believe this. And so you just have to beat them. There's a guy named Seth Godin. I'm going to skip ahead here. So there's this guy, Seth Godin. He wrote a book called Linchpin, Tribes, a couple other books. He's a really fantastic author and speaker. he talks about work. And he says the days when people were able to get above average pay for average work are over. He says this recession is a permanent recession, actually. He says if you're the average person out there doing average work, there's going to be someone else out there doing the exact same thing as you but cheaper. You should forget about doing just things that are assigned to you, or never mind the race to the top. You'll be racing to the bottom. That's true. So how does that pertain to entrepreneurs? Well, wherever we are, we need to see things differently. That's one of the key characteristics of an entrepreneur. You look at what's broken and you think, why shouldn't I fix that? If it's in your company, you don't think, hey, that's not my job. I don't get paid to fix that. I get paid to do this. I'm just going to do that. That's average work. And you'll be racing to the bottom. What you need to look at is, how should that be? How should that be? How should that be? Why shouldn't I fix it? I'm going to go home and learn about that. I'm going to fix that. And you never know. That extra effort that you spend might be the next company that you start. Or it might be the door that opens, the opportunity that you get to experience. So I've talked to people before about how to get a promotion in their job. And one of the ways I like to look at it, and it pertains to this, is if you're doing your job great, you're doing everything you've been asked to do, then good job. You're good at what you do. If you're doing that and you're also helping others around you be more effective, then you're ready to lead them. You're ready for that promotion. And if you're already doing that and helping other departments and leading strategic thinking, then you're executive material. So don't ever go and ask for the promotion without first acting the part. You can act the part right now wherever you are. You can take that leadership, bull by the horns, and take it with the attitude of why not you, and help other people around you. Go above and beyond what's expected of you. It will open doors. So another thing is to just commit. So, aspiring entrepreneurs. Nothing worth doing is worth doing halfway. This is key. So think about my little hobby project, Baby Link. Right? It was a hobby. I didn't get anything for it, hardly. Okay, I got $30,000 for it. I thought that was awesome. It was like a year's salary for a little website I built at home at night. It could have been a lot more than that if I had committed to it, right? Stuck with it. Really, the paths that we take probably aren't quite as important as just the fact that we stick with it. Just like that guy dancing on the hill. You know, he probably felt pretty awkward for about 5 minutes before he got some company. And it's important for us to stick with it through our commitment. We've heard the stories about burning ships and bridges, right? Cortez, burn the ship so we can't sail back. We have to succeed here in the brave new world. This is commitment. What does that mean for you? I see so many entrepreneurs that have a decent idea, but they just want to dabble with it while they enjoy the safety of their day job. And there comes a point that you can't be awesome at two things. You can only really be awesome at one thing. So which are you going to choose? And how are you going to commit? If you're an entrepreneur, you got to figure out if you're ready to cast aside those fears and commit. I get a kick out of. Anyway, on this one episode of Gold Rush, these guys had been digging all over the land for like 2 months. And the season, I guess, is like maybe 3 months long. And they hadn't found any gold at all. And it's expensive to run the equipment, expensive to have people there. They're digging everywhere. And so they go to this guy, and he says, I drill. And they're like, what do you mean, you drill? And he says, well, let's drill 8 holes in your property, and you're going to have to hit the pause button on all your digging for a couple of days. It's going to cost like $5,000 to drill these holes. But we'll drill 8 holes, and we'll sample all the soil. We'll tell you exactly where the gold is. He goes back. His team doesn't want us. They're like, we can't stop. We got to keep digging. And we've been digging for 2. We got to keep going because we're failing. We got to just keep digging. And he finally convinces them. They hit the pause button. They drill their 8 holes. They find one area of their property that has a ton of gold in it. And guess what? They go and dig there, and they find a lot of gold. brilliant, right? They did that in like a week. That is so like entrepreneurism. You got to start smart. You got to validate your ideas before you go all in, and take some time to do some testing, to get some feedback, to understand the problem, make sure you're going to solve it. And this is what Nathan First is talking about all the time. Nail it and scale it. You figure out, you know the problem, the solution first, then you go for it. And finally, just remember the big picture. There's a lot of reasons why people leave their jobs, and pay isn't the biggest reason. The biggest reason is they're not being treated with respect or dignity, and they're being prevented from making an impact on the organization. And as you go out into the world, remember that your entire life, I like to look at it this way, your entire life is an interview. The person that you take the extra few minutes to help, or the person that you're honest with, or that you treat fairly, or that you concede something to, or that you just treat like a human, you're going to run into them again. I guarantee it. And the person that you're a big jerk to, you're going to run into them again as well. And it's just amazing that everything kind of comes back, and what you really need to do is just remember that in this life, people is our business, and it's important for us to treat people with dignity, with respect, and to be fair with the people around us, because it will come back to you in the long run. And that's all I have to say about that. So, thank you.